From HeatherHansenPresents.com, this is The Elegant Warrior, a place where we explore elegance and how to maintain it, especially in the face of challenges. We're talking about different definitions of elegance and how we stay true to our own definition when things get rough. Today, I'm talking to Carissa Kranz. Carissa is a former prosecutor and litigator who has owned and run her own firm for 6 years. However, she's been a vegan for much longer, and that's where her passion is. She's recently founded BevVeg, a law firm that helps food and beverage companies, mainly wine brands, become vegan friendly. Carissa, it is so fabulous to have you on with me here today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So what we talk about a lot on The Elegant Warrior is a little bit about what got you here and then where you're going from here. So tell the audience a little bit about your background, how it is that you decided to go to law school, and a little bit about your veganism as well.
Okay, so I don't know if you knew, I was a former professional ballet dancer as well.
I knew that you had some experience there, and I will talk a little bit about your ballet dancer because I think that's fascinating as well.
When you're saying elegant warrior, I feel like so much of where I've gotten my background and ability to just handle challenges and be elegant and graceful is because of the ballet training. But I just went off on a tangent.
No, but let's stay on that tangent for a minute. So how old were you when you started doing ballet?
I was born into it.
Wow.
My mom was a ballet teacher. She was a professional ballet dancer. She did Broadway, and she was also a vegan and had a vegan pregnancy, so I was born into that as well. So I was born a vegan, raised a vegan, and born a ballet dancer and raised a ballet dancer.
How do you think, well, how did you go from ballet dancer to lawyer?
Right, that's a good question. I had a knee injury when I was in high school, and I thought I could never dance anymore. So I went to the School of Performing Arts, and I didn't want to leave my high school, so I switched departments to communications, where I did speech and debate and writing. I had every intention of going back to dance, but I felt another skill set being developed that I was growing into, and I was a super shy, I didn't talk young girl, and I really came out of my shell, and I decided that I was going to dance every day after school from 5 to 10 at night, and in school focus on a more educational background. And what happened was as I just grew all these skill sets, I didn't know what to give up. So
Right.
I didn't give up anything. I just did everything, and I danced professionally all throughout school and throughout law school. I just did not dance to my ballet potential, which would have been American Ballet Theater or New York City Ballet, and instead I danced wherever there was a company that was by the school I got into. So I went to undergrad at University of Florida. I danced with Dance Alive, which was the only professional company in Gainesville. Then I went to Berkeley Law School. I danced with the Oakland Ballet when I was there. Then I went to Northwestern to get a master's in journalism, and I took company class with the Joffrey Ballet. And so I just never gave it up. So when you say elegant warrior, I'm telling you, that ballet has kept me grounded.
Yeah.
And so much of who I am is, I would say I'm a ballerina, but I do law. I practice law. I make my money doing law, but it's not how I would identify myself.
Isn't that amazing?
But that's also shifting. But yes.
But okay, so let's talk about the shift, because the shift from ballerina to communications, you're still creatively expressing yourself, right?
And it's still, both are forms of communication,
Right.
right? One's verbal, one's nonverbal. One is more spiritual and your soul speaking, and the other one is more articulating verbally and mentally how your thoughts are. But your body is also an expression and a form of communication. And I think everybody communicates, and some people communicate through artwork and painting or singing or music or playing an instrument. It just is what resonates with you. And I think what's important in life is to figure out what resonates with you and then follow that.
And that shifts, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but you just said that's shifting, and I do think that those things that resonate do shift as you grow and learn and want to change a little bit and stay fluid and not stuck in one place. Mm-hmm. And there's so many things I want to talk to you about being a ballerina who's also a lawyer, because I feel strongly, and I talk a lot to lawyers about the fact that we are constantly communicating with our bodies even when we're not speaking. And so you must be super tuned into that when you're in the courtroom because you're so aware of your body. But before we get there, how was it that you ended up going to law school in the first place?
Okay, so when I was in high school doing speech and debate, I was very shy, as I said. I ended up becoming president of my debate team, a nationally ranked speech and debater. I started doing film and writing, and I started realizing I was really good at other things. And I just felt like it was the smart thing to do to go to law school, and that ballet wasn't going to pay my bills, and that I was supposed to do it. So I struck a deal with my dad that if I got into a top 10 law school, that he won, I'd go to law school, and I wasn't going to go do the ballet thing full time. I don't regret it. I think everything happens for a reason. But it was a really tough decision, and for years I felt remiss over that decision.
So your mom wanted you to do the ballet, but your dad was pushing for law school?
Yeah, and they're divorced. So,
oh, man.
So anything that had to do with what the other one did, it was like, well, you're not following my path.
Yeah.
You know, my mom's the ballerina, my dad's the business venture capitalist. So one wanted, I think my mom was always supportive, and my dad's always supportive in the end, but you know, they both want what's best for you, but they have different ideas of how that is.
Right, and what that's going to look like. And only you can ultimately decide what that looks like. And it may be, I mean, Carissa, you've really formed a path that combines the two.
Yeah, and I think later in life, and it wasn't until more recently that I'm starting to make sense of my life. You know, I think, and I'm not to say that I don't have a whole lot of chaos and a whole lot of things going on, but isn't it like Deepak Chopra or someone says that everything great precedes great chaos?
Yes, absolutely.
That. I feel like I've been in a ton of chaos, but that there's clarity now on where I'm supposed to go and how I'm supposed to get there, because things are coming together in ways that I never would have known or made sense of or dreamed of a decade ago.
Well, and you've had a lot of changes more recently, which I want to get to in just a minute. But first I want to talk about the veganism, because you said that you were born a ballerina to a ballerina, born a vegan to a vegan. So your mom had a vegan pregnancy, and you've been vegan since you were born.
Yes.
And is that something that has been ingrained in you just because it's the way you grew up, or is it a passion for you with respect to the animals?
Okay. So my mom raised me vegan because she thought it was a healthier way to be. Mm-hmm. But when my parents divorced they split when I was 4.5, 5, and my mom said, you're going to go to your dad half the week, and he's going to try to feed you meat. You do what you want, but this is what it is. So I made a connection at 5 years old that, you know, a steak is a cow, or bacon's a pig, or chicken is a cute bird, and I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. So when I went to my dad's, he tried to get me to eat the meat, and I was like, I'm not eating that. And he said, well, that's not red meat, it's white meat. And I'm like, what are you, racist? There's no difference between red meat and white meat. And I just made up my mind. So I was raised vegan for health reasons. I stayed vegan for moral reasons.
Right.
And I do think they're all one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think it doesn't matter if you become a vegan for health. I think eventually you'll gain compassion for animals and the environment, or if you become a vegan because you love animals, you're going to start feeling better and noticing the health benefits. And it really does come to that mind-body-soul connection, which I think also has made me a better ballet dancer and a great athlete because I'm in tune.
Absolutely. And I think that is, no matter how you eat, I think that when you're in tune to what the food does to your body, which each thing that you're eating is actually impacting your brain, your spirit, your mood, your anxiety levels, all of those things, then you become more aware of what it is that you're eating. Mm-hmm. So with the veganism, that's something that has just been, I don't want to say just, because I know it's a major part of your life, but it's been part of your life that's been sort of peripheral to your jobs.
So it's been part of my life, but when I was younger, it was something that was weird to be. You were made fun of.
Yep.
Being vegan wasn't mainstream. Now it's like cool and hip.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom would pack me tofu sandwiches, and I would lie to my friends and say it was egg salad and make her put like turmeric in it to make it yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can be vegan and be proud to have a plant-based diet because that's the thing to do and be. So everything's changing. So like, yes, I'm shifting in my life and my focus of what I'm supposed to do and what my calling might be, but the world is shifting too.
Without a doubt. I was vegan. We've talked about this before. I was very strict vegan from, I'd say, around 94 to 2000. And that was before it was really mainstream. And you'd go out to eat and all you could eat was a baked potato because there just wasn't a lot of options. And now we're seeing that the rest of the world is catching up for a number of reasons, not the least of which are the environment, which makes it perfect for your law firm. But I want to take this a little bit chronologically so I don't skip things. Mm-hmm. So you're doing the ballet, you're doing the debating and so forth. You decide to go to law school, which I'm sure made your father very happy. Mm-hmm. And did you know when you were in law school that you wanted to put the debate skills to work and be a trial lawyer? Or were you thinking I could be any kind of lawyer?
I think I wasn't exactly clear and I was torn, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I knew I had a skill set that I had gained. I won the award in law school, Best Oral Advocate for the whole school in moot court. I was a prosecutor. Everyone thought I was one of the best prosecutors. I had a natural ability to be on the air to talk about current events or crime as the legal expert on many, like Nancy Grace, Dr. Drew, different shows. But I always struggled with the subject matter, to be honest, because I felt like I was more of an artistic person. I was more of a soulful person. I was more of a, I cared more about animals and the environment and veganism. And it wasn't exactly my favorite thing to do, to wake up every day, read the news and current events, and then go have an opinion on it.
And it's really hard, Carissa, when you're good at something, like really good at something, that you're winning the award at a competitive school, you're getting number one at this thing. And it's really hard when you're that good at something and yet it's not the thing that lights your soul on fire.
Right. So I started to think I hated law is what happened. I thought I hated the practice of law. That's really, I didn't enjoy putting gang members away.
Right.
I didn't enjoy doing securities litigation at Greenberg Traurig. I didn't enjoy doing, even with my own law firm sometimes, it's tough. Litigation's tough. You wake up every day and you're putting on like your war paint.
Yes.
And you're going to battle and you're battling, opposing counsel, you're battling your client, you're battling, court appearances, you're battling schedules, you're battling your staff. I mean, everything's a daily battle. So you really have to evaluate what you want.
It's so interesting. I just had this conversation with someone last night that it's one of the few jobs where your job is to fight. And for some people, that's great. They love to fight. And for myself, and it sounds like you as well, that's where the elegant warrior comes in, because there are times you have to fight and we're certainly prepared to do so, but it's not how you wanted to spend your everyday.
It's not how I want to spend my everyday. And I like to say I'm a really good fighter. Like, no one can win as good as what I can win. But the thing is, it wipes me out.
Yeah.
And then when I'm in that headspace, it's almost like I have to be bipolar to go to ballet class. And then I go to ballet class and I feel like a different person and I feel free. And then I'm back in the courtroom. And this isn't to say every case is like this, but just law in general, people don't like lawyers.
Right.
Okay, they don't like lawyers and they don't like dentists.
Right.
And that's because they normally don't have a good experience.
Yeah.
Or they're going to a lawyer to solve a problem and they want you to fix their life.
Right.
And that's a lot of pressure.
And the circumstances around what we do are not usually happy. Someone's been hurt. Someone's had a crime committed against them. Someone has some sort of an injury. So you had gone to, just so that we make sure that we get sort of your history correctly, you were a prosecutor and then you worked for a firm and then you started your own firm. So it's not as if you weren't trying all the different aspects of law and certainly all in on all these aspects of law. How did you decide to start your own firm, have the guts to do that? We had Jonna Spilborn on a few weeks ago and she talked about how hard it is to get everything together, start your own firm. How did you get the wherewithal to do that on your own?
Okay, that's true. It's a lot of work. People have no idea what it is to start your own thing from nothing.
Yeah.
So I was working at Greenberg Traurig, which was a top global law firm, and I was doing securities litigation, and I was totally uninspired.
Right.
And I knew it wasn't my life goal or purpose to become partner at a big firm, even though I might make millions of dollars. So around the same time, that's when I found my ballet teacher she ran the Palm Beach Ballet Center for 57 years. I had danced there for free my whole life and knew her probably around, since I was about 6 or 7 years old.
This is Joan Miller.
This is Miss Joan, Joan Miller. So I had graduated the studio in 2002, graduated law school in 2010, and heard then in 2013 that the studio had closed because she has Alzheimer's and that she was in a nursing home and that it was really sad. I was really sad to hear that news, but I sort of put it out of my mind and assumed that everybody was going to be there for her because she was always surrounded by thousands of students and parents and teachers. And she's a legacy, she's well known, and I just thought everything would be fine. Then I was in my mom's ballet class. My mom used to teach. For her. My mom was also a teacher for Miss Joan. And someone came to class and said, you really need to go to this nursing home down the street. It's like really sad. It's a 1-star county facility. She's in a ward room with 5 roommates. She's got no advocate. And her parents are dead. She was an only child. She'd never been married. Her life was ballet in the studio. And everyone didn't know what to do and turned a blind eye because they thought, she can't live alone anymore. She can't take care of herself. Her home was foreclosed. The studio was taken from her. And she really had nothing and lost her life and lost her identity. I went to the nursing home, and then, of course, reality hit. I got really sad. I went home. I cried. I couldn't live with it. I built a website, a phone tree. I thought everyone was going to rally, and they didn't. She wasn't advanced Alzheimer's at the time. She was very beginning Alzheimer's. She went from living completely alone to being dumped in a nursing facility, warehouse, because she had no advocate to even put her in proper placement.
Right.
And the system is inundated. So if you don't have an advocate, forget it. So after about 3 months of going there daily, taking her out, bringing her to rehearsal, bringing her to my house.
And at this time, where are you working?
I quit my job at Greenberg Troy.
Wow.
And I got off track. That's how I quit my job, moved her into my house.
Wow.
And I said, all right, I'm going to open my own firm. And I started my own firm of taking care of injured people.
While Miss Jones living with you.
Yeah, that's how I started my own thing. And, in a way, she was my first injured client.
Right,
She was a victim of nursing home neglect. She was a victim of elder abuse. She was a victim of medical malpractice. You name it. So that catapulted into me ending up with a whole firm of 8 employees and hundreds of files.
Right.
And, fast forward 6 years, this is where we are. She's still with me and advanced Alzheimer's now, unfortunately.
So she's still living in your home in Florida.
Yes.
And you're not there all the time now, so who's helping take care of her now?
I had to battle the system as an elegant warrior to get her all the services that she's entitled to through Medicaid.
Great.
Which is Meals on Wheels, incontinence supplies, medication, caregivers. She has daycare 5 days a week, which is a godsend saver. I could not have done it without daycare being donated. And 5 days a week she goes to daycare, transportation's donated.
That's great.
And so she's totally, honestly, taking care of her life was like building a business in and of itself because I had to get it, I had to set up a system.
A system. There had to be a system, absolutely.
And,
And one of the things so I have some exposure to Alzheimer's in my life too, and it's so sad. And one of the things that was so heart-wrenching to me was watching you, recently I saw it on Facebook, where she was having no response to the different types of therapy that they were trying to do. And then you took her back to ballet. Mm-hmm. And she was able to, and there's a video, and I'll try to post it on the show notes for this, because there's a video of you, I get the chills just thinking about it, talking her through, I don't remember, I took ballet when I was a kid too, but the passe and all the different did you find that ballet was something she could remember when everything else was gone?
Right. So she was literally on her deathbed 2 years ago. It's amazing she came back from that. And she was unconscious, unresponsive, you name it, in a wheelchair, and she was not responding to physical therapy. They wanted to put her in hospice, and I fought them. I'm like, nope, we're trying therapy. They went to therapy. I had to go to therapy with her every day because they couldn't get through to her. Mm-hmm. But I was able to get through to her by talking to her in ballet terms. So they would say, like, lift your leg, and she would look at them. I would say grand bat ma, and then her leg would go up in the air.
It's so funny.
And then, you know, they were shocked, by the way, to see her get out of a wheelchair in that video and hold the bar and start, you know, trying to do ballet. And it's also sad because if you see in the video, you know, she was the best ballet teacher you've ever had. And she knew when you did anything wrong. Like, she was the standard of perfection. And in the video, you see her, like, staring at me, trying to figure out what to do next.
Right.
Like it's there, but it's not. You know, so it's a process.
Yeah, it's both heartbreaking and also encouraging to know that there's that piece that she's able to follow your instruction. And my gosh, the patience that you've had I mean, truly the epitome of an elegant warrior, because being able to maintain your elegance and to do all these things for her while you're starting your own firm, it had to be a lot. One of the questions I usually wait till the end, but this is probably a good time to ask it, is how did you maintain your elegance with all of that stress?
I'm not sure I did.
And sometimes you don't, ladies and gentlemen.
I went to ballet class regularly. I believe in karma. I believe that when you do the right thing and you are committed to it for the right reasons, it's going to work out. I knew I was doing what I was doing for her for the right reasons. I mean, she was destitute. There was nothing in it for me. And my law firm was very blessed.
Right.
So, I mean, I went from making 6 figures to 7 figures building my own thing. So I just feel like that is because I did the right thing. And it hasn't been easy having caregivers in your house constantly and no privacy, and a law firm then running out of your house, and then having employees have to come to your house because you have to manage them and you can't leave her alone. I mean, it has not been easy, but I do feel like now things are streamlined where, you know, I do have my freedom to now build and pursue my career. Her life is now on autopilot. My staff is now stable and functioning. But it was not easy. And I think the only advice I give is you just can't give up. Like, when things aren't easy, it's so easy to give up.
Yeah.
You have to just you just keep going. You have to just keep pushing through.
It's easy and it's tempting. Because I don't know, it is easy to give up, and yet it's hard in retrospect. When you've given up, you usually regret it if it's something that you really wanted and you give up. But it's so tempting to give up because it just feels like so much energy. And seeing someone like you who has balanced, but you've sort of been doing this your whole life, balancing ballet with school and then ballet with school. And you're still doing that, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. So you're in Florida. You've got Miss Joan moving in with you. You've created this firm, which now slowly is starting to be a little bit more self-sufficient. System sufficient, and then also Miss Joan.
The injury firm is totally sufficient now, but now I have a whole new practice area that I've started that I have to now. I'm building a whole new system.
But also, you've moved to New York, at least in part.
Right, in part.
Right. So
I'm back and forth.
To take care of Miss Joan and the practice in Florida. Right. So you were doing some television, and for the audience to know, Carissa and I met because we're both anchors at the Law and Crime Network. In part, we fill in when we can, and we're there when we can. And so you were doing some television, running your firm, and yet what made, you just mentioned, the whole new law practice? Where did that come from, and what's the plan?
So about a year and a half ago, I started to feel exhausted and depressed with my current situation. And I was sitting in my office, which was also Miss Jones' bedroom with a hospital bed and a lift chair and caregivers feeding her. And I said, I just don't think I like the practice of law anymore. Like, I think I hate law. And then I started to say to myself, but I don't hate, the laws that I think matter. I don't hate the law of attraction. I don't hate the law, spiritual laws and karmic laws and universal laws. And so I just started writing, and it was a stream of consciousness, more of a narrative that I was writing. And before I knew it, it took about 3 months, I found it to be very therapeutic to write. And I would spend my weekends doing it, my nights doing it, on my free time doing it. And I couldn't believe what was coming through me and what was ending up on paper. It wasn't like I heard anything channeling,
Right.
but
Not
it
like
was,
Abraham Hicks, which a lot of our guests have talked about Abraham Hicks, which is that
yeah,
type of a thing.
I feel like when I read it, it's from the same intelligence source because it just feels, it resonates the way Abraham stuff would resonate.
Mhm.
But I don't hear an entity source. I
Right.
just feel like I can tap into it.
Mhm.
So I wrote the book, and it's been done for about a year, but now I'm in the editing process and I haven't had time. So the shift, though, just to answer your question, I feel like I did my part by writing this book. And then what happened was when the book was done and I put it away, this concept of BevEdge, which is the new practice area that our law firm is now mainly focusing on, came to me. And it came to me in a very unique time. I don't want to go off on too many tangents, but I feel like sometimes when you do your part, the universe then delivers.
Yep.
So I did my part of writing the book, and then what happened is in my book, the title is called The Laws That Matter, and it's about universal laws and spiritual laws, and basically how anyone can live an inspired life and be their own lawyer and be their own advocate. And the book uses legal procedure as a tool to show you how to live your life. So if you open this book, your subpoena is served. You now have an obligation to show up in life, show up for yourself, show up for others. And there are other tools in the book for you to live life as an elegant warrior. So what happened was, a book was done, and we had to evacuate for Hurricane Irma.
Mhm.
Okay, I had just learned maybe 3 months before, while I was writing that book, that a lot of beverages, wines, beers, and liqueurs are filtered through animal parts.
So let's just take a pause there, because having been a vegan before, I had no idea that this was the case. And I was at my dentist yesterday telling him about this interview, and he has a family member who's a vegan. And I told him what we're going to be talking about, and he had no idea. So tell us what the deal is, and
I
how
had
did you
no
find? I
idea.
know. So how? First of all, tell the audience what is filtered through what.
Okay. So, well, a lot of, and you don't know,
Right.
because there's no labeling disclosures on liquor. It's regulated by the Tobacco and Trade Bureau, and if you look at a wine bottle, there's no ingredients and there's no explanation of their process. And a lot of these beverage companies are finding their wine through animal parts, like isinglass, which is fish bladder, or they're putting egg whites into it, or they're using gelatin, or they're using crustacean shells, or the skeletons of a fish, or they're using beetle juice. I mean, you name it, and you don't know what's in your
Right.
glass. There's no transparency, there's no disclosures, and people think, well, how can it not be vegan? It's grapes.
Right.
It's crushed grapes.
Right.
And I was on the same page. I was shocked and mortified. And actually, the girl who told it to me told me that it's not. When I was having a burrito with her, and I looked it up, and I was shocked. She's now our chief compliance
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
officer. She's an attorney. So she helps us do what we're doing now, which is vegan certifications. But the whole concept came to me. First, I was horrified. Okay, I was just horrified that this was the case, and I googled it.
You've been drinking wine and
my whole,
right.
I've been drinking wine. I've been claiming to be a vegan
Right.
my whole life, and I'm drinking things that are filtered through animal parts. And what happened was I had to evacuate for Hurricane Irma. And so what do you do when you're evacuating a hurricane? You stack up on water, food, and wine.
Right, absolutely.
So I was in the beverage section of the grocery store, and I was taking forever. And my mom and my cousin were like, there must be an easier way for you to know what's a vegan wine. And I'm like Googling, and
Oh, yeah.
So the first wine I could find on a shelf that had a vegan claim to it, I bought like 10 bottles
Right.
because it was just too difficult to figure out what was vegan. So we evacuate the hurricane, we lose electricity, and of course that's when my brilliance comes in, when I'm disconnected from my 300 phone calls a day and the craziness of the law firm. I'm going to war every day with, injured clients, and I'm totally disconnected. We have no internet, no electricity, and I'm sitting here drinking my wine, and the idea was born, and I drew the logo on a napkin that night.
Wow.
I have a picture of the napkin.
Wow.
I could show you, and I initially thought we would name it Veg Bev, but I was like, no, that sounds like a green drink. And then that night I went to sleep, and the words rearranged in my head to Bev Veg. And I woke up, and I was like, that's it. I wrote it down at like 3 in the morning. I'm like, Bev Veg, be veg.
Yep.
could be beverage, it could be a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was a platform that was given to me to actually love the practice of law again.
Yeah.
Because if you practice the law that resonates with you, you're going to be happy and inspired. But if you're practicing a law that's making you money, and maybe you're not fully inspired, you're not really living your life for yourself or for your purpose or calling.
Right. Right. And so the firm now, the focus on the firm is to make sure that the different beverages
and
are
food now. We have 2 logos. We're into food and beverages. So let me, as you get into one issue as a lawyer, you find more issues,
of course,
right? You learn how to
yeah.
issue spot. So that was the beverages. Now we're in, and it's too premature to say who we're in communications with, but some pretty big private labels for food and other products. The FDA and the USDA, they do have disclosure requirements, whereas beverage companies don't, but they only require you to disclose parent ingredients, not necessarily source ingredients or incidental ingredients. And if an ingredient has less than 0.5 grams per serving, not in the whole product, but per serving, they allow you to round down to 0. So there are claims of vegan, there are claims of gluten-free, sugar-free, and that doesn't mean it's sugar-free, gluten-free, alcohol-free, or animal-free.
Right.
As a vegan or someone that cares whether there's any animal product in the final product, I want to know if they're rounding down or up.
Right. If there's, I just read, I'm reading a book called The Happiness Diet, and they were saying in they do these like little blurbs about processed food and saying that in a can of mushrooms, there's allowed to be like 19 maggots without,
That's disgusting.
If you could see Carissa's face. But again, it's the same deal where you just don't realize in any sort of processed food or processed wine or processed drink what can actually be in there that you don't know about.
So we ask those questions.
Right.
We ask, what's your manufacturing process? What is your facility like? Is it a shared facility? Is there a chance for cross-contamination? If there's a chance for cross-contamination, what are your cleaning practices? Is it audited? We get third-party affidavits. Unfortunately, with vegan, it's not like there's a pregnancy test that you can dip into a product and say, aha, I got you.
Yeah.
I mean, the industry is right now full of fraud.
Right.
People are claiming products are vegan, but by what standard? There's no standard set out there. That's what we did. We set out a single vegan standard. As a law firm, I think that that's powerful.
Yes.
As opposed to just a group of passionate people banded together, which is also well-intentioned, and everyone should align and be on the same page. But the laws need to change.
Right.
So our law firm now decided, we're not going to work within the laws that we thought we should be doing, which is criminal, securities litigation, civil litigation, being a prosecutor, showing up to court, whatever. I mean, lawyers are regulators by nature.
Right.
Lawyers pay attention to details.
Yes.
Lawyers know how to cross-examine. Lawyers know how to do the follow-up. Lawyers know how to research and write and maintain files. So our law firm now is in the business of vegan regulation and certification, and that's honestly, I'm happy about it. I love what I do, and I feel for the first time actually inspired about my path. And you're, as you said, you've worked so hard and given so much, and the path is opening up for you. I mean, you are really, even in the little bit of time that I've known you, the opportunities for BevEdge are growing and growing and growing. So, it's been incredible. Like, when you're working, as Abraham Hicks would say, when you're working with the flow of the universe, it's going to just flow. And you have to be ready to be ready to be ready. It's another thing she always says. So, I wrote my book. I built, when the idea came to me, I didn't just let it be an idea. The next day I trademarked, the name, and I got someone overseas, and I paid them $5 on Fiverr to make my logo, and I built the website, and I made the app. You have to do everything to be ready.
Right.
And what I've seen is, as I've been ready, the opportunities have just been delivered. Like, we've been in Forbes and California Wine Advisory and CBS and NBC, and I'm speaking at Seafood and Wine, and Christy Brinkley endorsed us, and we just had an article come out last week. I didn't even know the article came out.
And I'll link to the article in the show notes as well, because it's a great article.
I had no idea. I had people telling me that congratulations, and so it's catching.
Well, and you did for Nobu here in the city.
We certified one of their gins So Nobu had a gin that is claimed vegan, but they wanted it certified, so we just did their drink. Yeah. So We just believe in the cause.
Yeah, clearly. And there's no one better to do it. I mean, with everything, every step has brought you here, and it's a combination of all of your loves. Now, the question then becomes, do you still do ballet?
Yes, but I need to get back into it on a more regular basis because I have been working way too hard. We just hired new people for BevEdge, and I'm
great.
really hoping that once I'm relieved, my goal is to, once I'm a little bit relieved here and this is on a stable path of building another system, get back into regular ballet and finish this book. I at first thought that the book needed to be done immediately, but now I feel like BevEdge needs to be stable.
Yep.
And then the book has a bigger platform because if I wrote a book about the laws that matter, it's profound to have a law firm built
On the laws that matter.
Yeah, or the laws that matter to me,
Right.
which I think are animals and higher consciousness, and to me these are universal laws.
Well, and the other thing is the book is there and it's written and it can be edited, but as opportunities present themselves, you can't be pushing them aside because you want to as you said, you have to go with the flow and wherever that takes you. And it certainly seems like it's taking you in the direction. I had no idea. I knew walking into this talk today that the beverage part was doing well, but I didn't realize that you had also
I wish I could disclose. I'll tell you after, off the air, because I just don't want to, until it's done, I don't want to say anything. But it could be, we're on to something really big right now.
It is amazing. Now, with all of that and all of how busy you are, how are you finding it? Well, first of all, we've talked a lot about elegance, and I think that you and I are on the same page with a lot of it, but how do every one of our guests defines it a little differently? What does elegance mean to you?
I think elegance is someone that can handle life and conflict and whatever's thrown with them with class, being humble, being able to stop and think before just reacting, and being able to survive and trust that it's going to be okay and that, the universe is going to provide. And if you go through life with a calm, quiet confidence about everything you're doing, then I think you're an elegant warrior, because you know what? We all have struggles. Nobody has it easy. Everybody faces challenges. It's the human experience to have challenges.
And that's what we're here for, to learn from and to, that's supposed to be almost the fun of it.
And I think people look at me because I do have this resume that everyone's like, oh my God, it's Carissa. She's just automatically successful. And that's not true. It's, even just being a good ballet dancer required so much work ethic and diligence and being in that studio every day practicing in order to become graceful at what I was doing. I can't tell you how many things I have tried that don't work out. You just don't give up. You just, if that doesn't work, you go this way, and if that doesn't work, you go that way, and you just have to kind of keep navigating until you know what works, and you can't give up.
Yeah, it's funny. I listened to Steve Harvey on Oprah's Masterclass, and he said there's no such thing as a straight line in nature. And I looked it up because I was like, oh, is that true? And it is true. And if you think about the way that anything, a leaf, a tree, a flower stem, they all curve. And so you sort of have to understand that there are no straight lines, that things just go the way that they're meant to go, and you follow it and do the best you can with the way that it goes.
You have to bend.
That's right.
You have to be flexible. That's all part of the grace, being able to bend, being able to be flexible. And I think, that is like ballet, physically flexible, but then that can translate into your normal life of being mentally flexible and, not being attached to outcomes and results, but just being attached to knowing that you're doing your best and that you're going to continue to do your best. And if that didn't work out, you're just going to do your best again at the next thing you try, because everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I am so excited to share all of your information on the show notes and to make sure that everybody has it and follows you and BevEdge, because I think that I'm going to look back on this interview and be like, I got her before she was no longer gettable.
I don't know about that.
Well, we'll see.
But I think you and I just, have a lot in common, because we really, we were on this national circuit of talking about these things that for us, it was like, we're skilled at it. But are we making a mistake, or are we failing by giving it up, or by not putting our energy in it? And I think that the key thing is there's only so much time in a day.
Right.
And you have to make your choices based on what drives you.
Yep.
And what drives you is your calling.
Yes.
And your calling is your purpose. And if you're passionate about your purpose, it will become your profession.
That's right. That's right. And you are an example of that. And I think that BevVeg is the perfect example of everything coming to fruition and a lot of the good that you've put into the world coming back to you.
I believe in that karma, yes.
Well, Carissa, I loved having you here with me today, and we will definitely keep in touch and hopefully have you back on to continue to fill us in on what's going on with BevVeg and food and beverages.
Sounds good. I want to just make one comment here. I know you sent me an email about a book.
Yes, tell us. That's one of the questions I asked.
So I do want to say, before I wrote my book and before BevVeg came to me, I read the book, The Law of Divine Compensation.
Marianne Williamson, one of my very favorites.
And she's a dear friend of mine.
I know.
So she gave me the book because she saw me doing personal injury and struggling with my life in that I wasn't living my dharma. And she saw that, dealing with car accident cases and talking crime all day on TV wasn't who Carissa was. And she really wanted me to come out of my shell and to come into my own. And that book really did help me get into the headspace to allow my creative mind to work and for things to come together. So I do think that, and it's interesting that the book is called The Law of Divine Compensation. She's not a lawyer,
no,
but she even refers to it as law. So as a lawyer, you and I, felt like I thought I hated the practice of law for a period of time there, realize I don't hate the practice of law. You have to practice the kind of law that resonates with you. And for me, these universal principles, these universal laws are laws. And these are the laws that I care about. These are the laws I wish to deal in. And these are the laws that matter.
Well, and with that, we will end. But ladies and gentlemen, I cannot recommend that book more highly. It's one of my very favorites as well. And it's also going to be linked in the show notes. Carissa, thank you so much.
I will.